to Tinted. Today we're going to be doing a tint hack. Now a tint hack, you know, this is a little bit advanced. I say it's advanced, this is for advanced people, but it's incredibly simple. Could not be simpler. Now let me just tell you a very quick story. When I first started tinting, many years ago, there was one problem that I kept getting. Now the problem I kept getting was, I could heat shrink the film, I could clean the glass, I could apply the film on nice and smoothly, but when I finished, it would have all them little bits of contamination. Now, if you're not incredibly experienced window tinter and you've just started, maybe when you first start putting the film on and you get it flat and you push out all the water, there's no bubbles, there's no creases. Result, you know, you think, yes, I've did it. But you wait till that film dries out. When that film dries out, all the little bits of contamination is going to show. Now, what is contamination? Contamination simply is particles of dirt or dust or lint or felt from the edges that have got caught between the glass and the film. Now, because of the nature of the film, where it's so thin, basically, even that one individual particle of dust, once the film lies over the top of it, it will become raised. Once it becomes raised, you're going to get a white bubble around that one individual speck of dust. Doesn't sound like much, but that white bubble on a black background, a charcoal background, can be quite obvious. Now, every tinter is going to get the odd speck, maybe one or two or three. And in my opinion, the mark of a bad window tinter, a professional window tinter, is the amount of contamination that person gets. So I see a lot of people, you know, from local window tinting shops and all that lot, who the customers have been there and they've got their car done from this place and it's very cheap. And when I've looked at it, I've just thought, wow, look at the contamination underneath that film. It's just, you know, it can really set the difference between a good tinter and a bad tinter. Now, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how to get out minor contamination. So, extreme contamination, there's no thing for it. You've got to take it off. You've got to do it again. You've got to ask yourself why that happened. For example, cleaning the glass properly. If you don't clean the glass properly, it's going to have particles of dirt or residue of glue or fingerprints, sticky hands, whatever. It's going to be contaminated. Tinting in a dusty environment, again, you know, if you're trying to do a window tint outside, or you're doing it in a carpenter's workshop, a real dusty garage, when you take that liner off, the static is going to draw all the dust from the air straight onto the glue of the tint. So again, you're going to get that. Another thing as well is the things you use. I've been watching videos on YouTube where some guys are using a towel to clean the outside of the glass, and then they use the same towel to clean the inside of the glass. I mean, please, you know, what's going to be dirtier, the inside of the glass or the outside of the glass? Obviously, the outside of the glass has got loads of contamination stuck to it because it's an outdoor glass. By cleaning the dirt off with that sort of towel and then using the same towel to wipe on the inside, that's just crazy, isn't it? I can't. Anyway, leave that for another time. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to get this piece of film, this offcut, and I'm going to put it straight onto the glass behind me. Now, I'm not going to clean the glass because I want it to be contaminated, and I'm going to show you what we can do with the contamination. Okay? Peel that liner off. I'm going to spray up the glue. Now remember, I have not cleaned this glass. Now because I'm only using a camera phone, I'm really hoping that the contamination that I get will be picked up on this camera. Now I really want you guys to remember that I have not cleaned this glass because I want contamination. It's probably the only time in my life where I actually want contamination. It's really a sod's law that without cleaning it or doing anything, It's actually pretty nice. What are the chances? Let me have a look at this. That's actually really nice. Bear with me one sec. So, the reason for the cut in the video is I accidentally applied a very nice piece of film. I didn't clean the glass or anything like that, and I really wanted to show you contamination. But I suppose when you've got it, you've got it. It's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. So I'm going to contaminate it myself, okay? Okay, trying again with another piece. Now, like I said, the other bit was accidentally really nice. So I was unable to show you how to get rid of contamination. Let me show you now. Can't be nice now, can it? Okay, that does feel like a very contaminated bit of tint, which is great. That's what we want. So, what we've got here is a very contaminated piece of film. We'll got there eventually. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to have to dry it with a heat gun. Now, if I dry it with a heat gun, and if I don't make it too hot, but I dry it with a heat gun, what we can do is we can prematurely see what it's going to look like when it dries out. So let's do that now. So, what I'm trying to, my best for you to see is, can you see just here, there's a hair. There's also another hair just here. Can you see that? And to the right, you're going to see particles. You're going to see little specks of dust here. Now look how close I've got to go in order to see all this contamination, which is why sometimes on these YouTubers, these window tinting, teachers, it looks great after what they've done. But seriously, I mean, if you can see this on my camera now, then that's good. But believe me, in the flesh, it's a lot worse. Now I'm going to show you how you can get it out. Now, like I say, I've had to heat it up in order to dry the film prematurely, so we can actually see on the camera phone, we can see the contamination ourselves on the screen. Obviously, when we first apply a bit of window tint, you can't see the contamination until it's really dried out, unless you're, of course, you're a trained window tinter. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use, after we've heated it up, we want the outside of the glass, after we've heated up the outside of the glass, we want the heat to transfer through the glass and get the glue nice and hot. Now, with our fingernail or the corner of a hard card, we're just going to very, very gently just scratch that contamination. What we're trying to do is we're trying to push the bubble, the moisture and the air of that individual piece of contamination out, away from it. If we can push the whiteness out of the contamination, then it pretty much dries invisible. Now again, like I say, this is not always the case. If it's extreme contamination, it's got to be done again. Also, if you get a little fibre, you think, oh, that's a shame, it would have looked lovely had it not been for that tiny little hair. Probably get it out. You can just warm up the glass, get it to about as hot as a cup of coffee would feel if you were to grab it by the china cup. And once it's sort of like a little bit too hot to touch, just gently with your fingernail or a card, just push that whiteness, that bubble out very, very gently though. You push it too hard, you're going to press into the glue and you're going to spread the glue and it's going to look worse and you'll have to do it again. Now the only bad thing about this sometimes is them fibres, sometimes that gets caught underneath the film, are actually white fibres. We can push the water and the air out of the contamination and that's great, it works brilliantly. But we can't change the colour of the contamination. If it's white contamination, it's got to go. Okay? So I'm now going to scratch out the moisture and the air around this contamination, which I just showed you in the video, and we're going to hope that when I put the camera back, it's going to be all gone. So I'm going to turn the camera around and you're going to see what I'm doing. Unfortunately, because of the quality of my camera, you're not going to be able to actually see it happening in front of you, but you'll be able to see me do it, and then I'll take the camera off the stand, we'll look closely, and hopefully we'll see that them things that I pointed out earlier are gone. Okay? So now that we've heated it, I'm gonna heat up them hairs, them dots, everything else. And like I say, this is how to fix minor contamination. Now, if this contamination was severe, it's not going to really help. If you heat it too much, you're going to spread that high pressure resin glue and it's not going to look pretty. So we're just very gently sort of digging into the bubble around the contamination and pushing it out. Using a fingernail if we have to. And something like this should only take 2 minutes, because ordinarily you wouldn't be getting a piece of film and sticking it on your t-shirt first. So you should only have a minor, like a corner, you know, let's say you've tinted this window and you've got like 4 dots here. You know, you heat them 4 dots and you do what I'm doing now and it looks great, you know. But if you have 4 dots there, 16 dots there, 8 dots there, a big little hair there, don't bother doing this, take it off, do it again. So, I think that's it. Now, no camera cut. Let's see how it looks. Now, am I able... Now, because the screen is better, now I'm hoping that you cannot see the hair anymore. That's just smears. That just smears. Yeah. If I'm honest, you might even just have to take my word for it, because the camera just cannot pick up that minor detail. That's why everybody's tint looks perfect on YouTube, because they just can't see. But believe me, what started out as a real bad film, I've just made incredibly better just by heating it up to about the temperature of a cup of tea, cup of coffee. When you sort of grab that china cup and think, oh, that's really hot, let me put it down quick. That sort of temperature. Heating it up on the outside, obviously not the inside, and with your fingernail or the edge of a card, or if you're experienced, a chiseler, just go in on the inside. Let me do it where I can show it like that, and just scratch that air and moisture out from the dot. Once it's away, push it away. If there's too much, don't even bother. It's no point. You'll be there too long doing it all. But if you've got a pretty nice window, except for the fact that you've got 4 or 5 dots in one corner, heat it out. Scratch it out, push it away. You can't see the bubbles, you can't see the contamination. Also, like I said before, by heating it up, you're prematurely drying it, so you get to see the tint on it at its worst. Now,
if you don't heat it up, sometimes, especially if you're not that experienced, you're just going to look at a bit of window tint and go, yeah, that's all right, that looks nice, bang, send it out. You want to see what it looks like when it's dried out. How the customer gets to see it 3-4 days later when it's dried. Heat it up first, see some contamination, heat it up, see what you're dealing with, push the air and the water out with your finger. Card that air and moisture out at the edge and it's gone. If you can't see them white bubbles anymore, you cannot see the contamination anymore. That's a tint hack from me, Mike Brand at Tinted.